All right, for those of you guys who are having a hard time finding Area 18, I'm going to do a fairly simple video. I'm at my last jump point right before coming into Area 18, and I'm going to go ahead and make my final jump. You can see the horizon's bad. I can't really see very well. You can monkey around with your gamma settings on lighter planets to, if they're too bright, you can dim them down and get a little bit better visibility, but this way it's a little more surefire that you can always find it. Or have a lot better chance at finding it instead of just guessing and flying around, because Area 18 is kind of obscure. Sometimes the fog, sometimes the brightness, sometimes other factors come into play. But I use this pretty regularly on finding any location, just to make it easy on me. Right now, just complete whiteout. Just to give you an example, what you can do with the gamma is one thing. With the light planet, I can drop my gamma way down, and then I get a little bit more defined space where it was complete whiteout. At least I can get some visibility. This particular time, I'm right over the landing pad, so this is ultimately what we're going to look for. But depending on which direction you approach, you might not be able to see it clearly. So what I do is kind of a fail-safe. I've completed my last jump. My route's been cleared. So I go back in and I set my route again. And that's given me a waypoint marker right here. I do this with almost every location that I'm going to help put it on easy mode for me. So I restarted my quantum, and it's actually giving me a rangefinder. So it doesn't matter which direction I approach, it's always going to give me this center point that you're going to see in just a second. And Area 18 is directly above the Arcorp building, which is more or less city center. So it doesn't matter. Yes, the landing pad is right next to me. I get it. That's lucky, or I came in on the right planet rotation that came into play. But this way, even if I came in from an opposite direction, it's still going to move me to city center. So as you'll see, that huge building that we're flying towards, the tallest one is the Arcorp building. And you'll see it in more detail as I approach. It doesn't take but a second to get there. So you can start to see how it's defined as one of the tallest buildings. That's ultimately the city center. And somebody else is hanging out down here. But when I've still got my waypoint, it's showing me 4,000 meters away. Just for the purposes of the video, I'm going to fly all the way to it and get right above it, because this is what I recommend for anybody to find the Area 18 landing zone easily. So now that I've gotten here, and you can see it's pretty foggy, bad conditions. My gamma helped out a little bit for visibility, and I'll show you what it looks like with high gamma and low gamma. So I'm more or less directly above the Arcorp building at this point. All right, there's a landing pad there too for fun. But at this point, what you want to do, it doesn't matter which direction, you can start spinning around on the axis and look at the planet surface. And what you're going to be looking for is a large landing area, right? So here we go. Straight off ahead of me, you can see even with the bad visibility, change in the gamma, it looks pretty apparent. Now let's even go back to, it's this location. It's large, flat. It's got kind of this hexagonal shape with the route going up here to know what it looks like. So you can take a picture of that mentally and be able to fly right back to it. And what I can do is change the gamma back to show you what it looks like in other conditions. Let's put the gamma up really high, which is bad for bright planets, or what we're dealing with right now. So you can kind of see that little beacon spot right there in front of me. That's how I identify that. So let me spin around again. You've got like a runner pad. We'll fly into it so you can get it a little bit better view. As we get up there, you can use the F and zoom in and start to see. There's the landing pad. You can start even seeing some of the landing area. But it has a very distinct approach area. And then you can even, with the zoom factor, even with the light, the gamma being really high on a bright surface, you can see it pretty well, right? I mean, that's what you're going to be looking for. It's got a few notable things. Now, if you look anywhere else, even if we zoom around, there's nothing else that's going to look like that from this area. So I've got myself on a slight coast, and you'll see as I pop back up and around what it, if I don't flip over, you'll see ultimately how distinct it is when you get around to that view. Put ourselves on a slow coast. And zooming in and out's kind of driving me crazy, but we'll get there. So there's the edge. Oof. I start to see the edge pop up right there. Starts to flatten out as you would expect an airport or landing area to, and then there's my big runner right there. As I zoom in, I can certainly see much clearer, even in the tough atmosphere, but there's your landing tower up here. And pretty identifiable if you're doing this and kind of going around. Now, for easy mode, again, I recommend putting it onto the graphics and drop your gamma commensurate with what you're looking like. If you're on the dark side or the sun's hidden, you can jack it up and see a little bit better, but just a little bit clearer picture. So when you're spinning it around, you're basically looking for a flat area. And then as you zoom into that flat area, you can see the structure, and that's what it's going to look like from this perspective. So there you go. Simple as way I can tell you how to get there, and we'll go ahead and fly on in. And the other thing, when I'm at Arcorp, or at the Arcorp building, it's not quite showing yet on my distance. So I can't radio in yet. However, it's not, you can see the red beacon at the center as well, identifying that that's the pad. And now you start to see ships populate because I'm getting close enough to identify the ships. Once you see a couple of ships start to populate, I'm going to keep going back. Still not quite in range yet, so continue to fly to the red beacon, which becomes more apparent as you get closer. And we are, now I saw another ship populate, so that's a pretty good indicator you're within 10K. And here's your Area 18 landing service. Now, this is pretty much easy mode from here on in, that you can ultimately have a rangefinder. If you're having a hard time still, shouldn't be too hard from this point, but you've got a rangefinder that's telling you how far away your landing pads are and so on and so forth. Still have Area 18 highlighted. That's my triangle. So let's, at this point, if that's bothering you or confusing you to have two markers highlighted, you can go ahead and uncheck your location or clear your route, and then you'll just have the one identifiable marker with the triangle like such you see on the top of the screen. That gives me a directional to Area 18 that I can get to the landing pad. Depending on your ship size, is going to depend on what type of hangar you can park in. It was a little confusing to me when I first came out here the very first time, because what I'm getting right now is a top load hangar, which is easy. That's kind of like what's on Loreville, but there's also side load hangars as well. If you're in a smaller ship, you might spawn into a side load, and you actually have to fly down into a valley of or you got to fly down into this valley of no-fly zones and then turn sideways and get into your hangar. So there you go. At least for the top load, it's pretty simple. Let me see if I can identify. You can kind of see how this valley is created. There's some here, but you'd have to have a smaller ship to actually trigger it to open and be able to see the clearly definable hangar. Now, as within my Carrick landing video, if you're ever nervous about landing in a hangar from a top load perspective and you're worried about hitting walls, you can always set your, you can see I'm set onto 90 degrees dead center. And I can basically strafe around. I click shift on a keyboard, or you can just lock your orientation, not touch your stick, and stay on that 90 degree. And you can put that center dot basically like a target on your landing pad and come straight down. When you get close to the front of your ship touching, you can then unlock your ship and rotate up, and it perfectly aligns with the hangar. So you're going to have a dead on landing every time. If I go back to 0 degrees, drop my landing gear, I'm center of the pad, because the way the ships rotate, they center on the axis for rotation, no matter how big they are. And there you go, perfectly smooth landing, and you'll be in the dead center of the pad. As you see, nice and smooth, and that works with about any size ship that you use, and it's a nice safe way to land if you haven't done a top load hanger before. There you go, folks. That's all I've got for now. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope it helps. If you have any questions about doing that with any other ships or any other locations, let me know. I'll be glad to help you.